There are fears of more coronavirus cases from Victoria after 3 men allegedly lied at the border on their return to Queensland. Health authorities are now anxiously waiting the outcome of their test results after one fell ill with COVID-like symptoms. The trio, who have now been charged, takes to 10. The number of people in the past week who'll face court accused of lying to police on their border declaration. Brittany Klein reports.
Exasperation from the Premier. First, 3 women risk Queensland's COVID-free run.
Now we've got a question mark over the 3 men.
The latest trio was also returning from Victoria to Logan, but allegedly lied about their trip at the Coolangatta border on Sunday.
People in our community are still telling lies and deliberately trying to mislead the system.
The men, all in their 20s, had spent several weeks in Melbourne and also managed to escape detection driving through New South Wales. Their story only unravelling when one of them got sick and had to be tested yesterday.
The fact that they have been in Victoria is something of grave concern to all of our community.
Particularly for residents already on edge in declared COVID hotspots.
We've got people aware in Logan that this is a high-risk situation.
Even retailers are bearing the brunt of it.
We are seeing an increase in abuse and customer abuse, particularly around areas like Logan.
The state opposition, which pushed for borders to reopen, has now hit reverse, calling for tighter restrictions imposed on anyone coming in.
It should be up to the people trying to come into Queensland to prove that they haven't been in a hotspot.
At Parklands Christian College, the lockdown has been extended at least another week, while staff and students undergo a second round of testing.
It's putting a stress now for people to go back with children. Like my daughter had to be hauled down by 3 people today because she was screaming.
In a letter to families, health officials said the alternative is spending another 2 weeks in isolation. Negative test results have also come back for 86 staff at the Pajara Aged Care Home. Tight restrictions will remain in place at hundreds of facilities across southeast Queensland, at least until all remaining staff have been cleared. Just 12 cases remain in Queensland with no additions overnight. That's despite 11,000 tests completed in the past 24 hours. Brittany Klein, ABC News.
The Queensland Premier says the state will no longer allow consular or diplomatic staff returning to Australia to be exempt from hotel quarantine. Anastasia Palaszczuk has ordered a police investigation into the documents provided by a man travelling on a diplomatic passport who was given an exemption from hotel quarantine and who now has COVID-19. Here's state political reporter Stephanie Zillman.
It began as a diplomatic exemption. Now it's a police investigation.
This will be fully investigated.
The documents Queensland's chief health officer relied on to exempt a man in his 20s from hotel quarantine are now being examined by police. The man tested positive to coronavirus at the weekend. He'd taken a Jetstar flight from Sydney to Maroochydore on Friday before driving to his home in Toowoomba, where he tested positive. He had an exemption to do that, granted by the New South Wales and Queensland governments. Queensland Health says he held a diplomatic passport, but it has since emerged he was actually a private security contractor.
I have a letter from the embassy in Kabul. I have information from the individual, and I have information from New South Wales granting the exemption. So I have those 3 documents, which now are with police for them to work through.
The ABC has obtained one of those documents written on a Department of Foreign Affairs letterhead. It states the man was a private security contractor travelling on essential Australian government business. Anastasia Palaszczuk has labelled the incident a loophole in Australia's quarantine practices. It's unclear what element of the man's documentation is under investigation by police.
Our understanding is that a letter was provided on DFAT letterhead, and there was an exemption that was also granted. So this will be fully investigated, but there is still a loophole that needs to be fixed.
This evening, the Premier announced she would now be ensuring any consular and diplomatic staff returning from overseas or interstate hotspots would go into hotel quarantine. Just yesterday, she said she didn't have the power to do that and that it was up to the Commonwealth.
Exemptions need to be closed as much as possible, because we've got to keep our communities safe.
But as it stands, there remain a number of exemptions in place that allow certain people, such as FIFO workers, to travel interstate. Stephanie Zillman, ABC News, Brisbane.